Everybody, welcome. It's good to be back here with the Liberian Association of Canada. I have Pastor Joanne with me. I have Catherine Flam, who is a customer service worker from Windsor. I had Jessica Niwan, also who is a nurse, all the way from Vancouver. And I have Mother Pandora Joanne from London, Ontario. So I'm going to get started quickly with just rounds of introductions quickly. I will start with Mother Pandora. Mother Pandora, can you just introduce yourself and tell us about your line of work?
Well, my name is Pandora Joanne. I'm a Liberian Canadian living in London, Ontario. I work as a personal support worker.
My name is Jessica Niwan, wife to the president of the Liberian Community Association here in Vancouver. I currently work as a nurse in the emergency department of one of the hospitals here in Vancouver.
My name is Catherine Flan. I'm from Windsor. I work in the customer area.
Yeah, my name is Joanne, and I live in Milton, Ontario. And I'm an itinerant pastor. I travel around the world and teach in different churches. And we have a ministry in Liberia that's called Hope for Liberia.
So I'll start with you, Pastor Amara, because we have a very interesting story as to how I connected with Pastor Joe Amara.
Okay, sure. I was speaking at a camp in Paris, Ontario, called Braeside. And, you know, I was actually talking about what we're doing in Liberia. They said, hey, share about what God has you doing there. And this guy stopped me. And he said, hey, I cut a Liberian's hair. And I'm like, what? He goes, oh, I should start, I'm a barber. I said, okay, well, that makes more sense now. He goes, yeah, I cut this guy's hair. He's from Liberia. Like, he's really political and he does all this kind of stuff. And can I give him your number? And I'm like, so I reached out to you, and then I came down to see your office in Hamilton, and we just kind of hung out for a couple hours and, you know, exchanged what it was that, you know, God had called us to do. And we've just been in touch ever since. And then when COVID-19 broke out, I reached out to you and said, hey, what are we doing to help Liberia? And that's how we got to where we are tonight.
Mother Pandora, I wanted to come to you at this point, especially for those of you who are within the healthcare area, specifically you being in long-term care. What types of changes have you had to go through at work or even at home as a result of everything that has changed over the last 2-3 months so dramatically?
There are so many changes that has been put in place, especially for people living in the various homes. Some of them will be like, we go to work every day, our temperatures are taken. This never happened before. They gave you gloves, they gave you masks. You have to be in that almost, especially when you're working on the floor, you have to put on the glove, and, you know, and go everywhere with it, like all day you in glove as long as you are there. And then another thing is like, for us, the healthcare workers, especially the PSW, we move around a lot. We go to other homes. And if you do not have the full-time hours, you will need 2-3 jobs to be able to make up for the amount of money you need to pay your bills. Some of us work at 3 homes and 2 homes, and, you know, as long as you are strong enough, and we go to we do private cares and all of that. So with that being said, since the outbreak, the job has been cut down to 1. You are only entitled to work in 1 home. I mean, it's difficult, but we understand why they are doing that, for the protection of the people that we work with.
The main reason I decided to do this show was to shine a light from our perspective in the Liberian community, in terms of, especially as a community who've come here, lost everything because of the tragic situation in our homes, spent many years on refugee camps, and ended up here. And this country gave us another chance to rebuild our lives. And now we find ourselves in a situation where within our community, sometimes we don't realize how much more we also contribute to society here.
Well, what is difficult, especially for us, number one, you go to a job and then you are going against a virus that you do not see. You do not know where you will find it. And then for our job, you come into close contact with the client that we work with. You cannot say that you will work with someone and then you go 6 feet or 7 feet away from them. I am their hand, I am their feet, I am their voice. So I have to be very close to them because I do the cleaning, I do the washing, I do all of those things. So now I like there's no way that I'm going to distance myself from them. Now, one of the regulations that one of the things that they advise us to do here is not to touch your eye, your nose, your face. It's difficult, especially when you are in a situation where the place is hot and then you have a mask. For me, I wear glasses. So imagine me with glasses on and then with masks on, and then I have gloves and I have to go and watch someone. And then I know there's a virus somewhere that I do not know where it's coming from, where it is, whether it's in the home, whether it's like someone rub it on the door, or it's on the floor where I'm walking. I don't know. You notice your eye will be itching, and in a split second, the nose will start doing the same thing, and then your forehead will go on. So it's difficult. Sometimes before you know it, you'll use that very hand to wipe your face. I remember I was looking at our recording the other day, and there was this a nurse from the hospital trying to tell the world what she was going through the hospital, and all of a sudden she had a glove, and then she started rubbing her face, and I could hear someone say, "Oh man, don't wipe your face." It's easier to say it than to even remember it when you are in the act. Mm-hmm. When you are working, you do not even remember, don't wipe your face. Before you know it, your hand is on your face. So it has really been difficult for us to be able to maintain that. Yep. And then another thing is, earlier on, I spoke about the challenge, the financial challenge into this whole work. We have to work, and we are working, but the people that we have to pay our bills to, they're not going to tell us, say, like, for instance, for me, I need 30 hours to be able to complete my bills, because few months before the coronavirus started, my husband was in school and then he wasn't working. So I had to work 30 hours to be able to pay our bills. Now I have to cut down those hours. So that's why it is. They're not going to, whether you owe them $2, they're going to come after you. And then you need an hour. So these are challenges that we face. And then because somebody needs you, you can't say, well, I mean, it's tempting. Sometimes you want to say, well, let me leave the job and at least get the emergency fund that is coming in, because at least when I'm not working, I'm sure I'm getting $1,000. But what if I'm working and I cannot afford to get the $2,000 a month to pay my bills? But because we know someone depends on us out there, we have to go every day.
Oh, thank you. We have to be extra careful because it's food that we are dealing with. Things are kind of so different, like everybody kind of scared, like how to handle the food, because you never know, like the virus is not something that gave you invitation to say, oh, I'm here, do this around me, you have to do this. We have to use common sense. I don't know where to, like,
yeah.
It's just too much. Like normally when the customers come in, they just put in their order, come and pick it up, or now they have to have a seat, stand like 6 feet away from whosoever they're interacting with. And then they have to wash their hands, have masks on, wear their gloves, do the temperature check. Those are all time. Like some customers are in a hurry. If they put in their order, they just there to pick it up and leave. But because they have to go through all this, it's like they're kind of tired with all these things going on. Some of them are so mad. They don't behave normal. Like when they come, act like a customer. Some of them, because of all the restriction and instruction that they have to follow, they don't have patience to do all of that. So sometimes when they come, they're like not happy. They talk to you any kind of way because they feel like they're not affected and why they have to do all of this. But it's all because of their safety and our safety.
Jessica, I will come to you because you work in the Emerge, which is a difficult place to work, period, regardless of COVID-19. Any nurse who works in an emergency room, I always say it's a tough place mentally to be and physically to actually be. But as a nurse yourself, having to go to work every single day and confront the reality that you might encounter a patient that has COVID-19 or not, especially being in BC, which has been a hot spot for a long time in British Columbia. How are you coping? How are you finding things overall, just from your own perspective?
One word, overwhelming. It is overwhelming, honestly. So many changes, if I should say, has occurred since COVID-19. I mean, like the whole washing hands and whatever, that's like our norm. Washing hands, you take off gloves, you wash your hands. Hand hygiene has been the norm, but so many things has changed, and you find people more emotional at work. You find like physically, everybody, you can just look at somebody and know that they drained, and psychologically, I don't know, it's overall overwhelming. Having to wear the PPE, like the personal protective equipment, for 12 hours. Probably have a picture of what I look like every day at work. Internet and a mask for 12 hours every day. We always make the joke like, don't touch your face. It's harder than the 10 Commandments. Literally harder than the 10 Commandments, but bottom line is, somebody said you sign up for it. We didn't sign up to die. We signed up to help. We signed up to do our best and, just render the best help that we can, because this is something that is, if you ask me, pneumonia, you know what to do. Somebody with diabetes, you know what to do. But this is like, nobody knows. We literally fighting an unseen battle. We just go into war with the ammunition we think we got, our gloves, mask, and whatever. You can only do so much. We can only do our best, honestly, and just leave the rest to God. When I come home from work, honestly, park in the garage, I strip naked in the garage, leave my shoes, put my stuff in the plastic bag, and put it straight in the washer and wash every single day. Head straight for the shower. Thanks to my supportive husband, keep the kids away from me, at least let me shower down. Back 2 weeks, they were actually testing people who were symptomatic. Like if you're actually coughing or have actual fever and stuff, they test you. But now Canada is doing pretty good. If you go in there and say, I won't get tested, they will test you. They've reached that point. So we're doing pretty good. I would say in terms of PPE, I see when I watch the news, Americans struggling for, garments for their workers to go whatever. Here in Canada, in Vancouver, I shouldn't say in Canada, in Vancouver, I think they're doing pretty good. Like in terms of, equipment for us to use at work, because the amount of gloves and that you go through, even before COVID, once you're in and out, you change it, you wash your hands. You can't overall, we just got to give it a go.
But we were set to go there in a couple of weeks. In mid-May, we were going to leave with a team of 12 people from across Canada, from BC to Nova Scotia, and we were going to help build a church and a school. And we'd raise the money, to feed thousands of people, to make, some good food for them. And we were going to do community cleanups and go into some of the poorest neighborhoods and do a lot. We're so excited to be able to go like into West Point and do a service and preach the gospel there. And we had all these things that we were going to do. Everything was ramping up, and then we had to kind of come to a halt. And for us, it was easier as Canadians because, we can go to Walmart or wherever and buy our groceries for a couple of weeks at a time if we need to, and put them in our fridges and our freezers and stuff. And when we couldn't have church gatherings, we could do Zoom meetings and we can do online stuff. But a lot of my friends who are pastors in the Monrovia area, they really struggled with having to shut down their services because they felt like they were doing God a disservice by not having church. And so we had to work with them and help them to understand that it's not just about, defying government, or it's about thinking about, the people in your community and protecting them. And so kind of educating our brothers there on what COVID-19 really was about. So what we've done now is I said to Pastor Sam Binsey, who's my contact on the ground, I said, what can we do? What's the biggest need? And he said, food. We're only allowed to go out for a certain window of time. And if you got to go by public transit, by the time you get to the market and get back, you're not going to make the curfew time. And he said the police were being really violent and it was getting really out of control. And so we found a shop right outside the church in where you grew up, Leo, beside the soccer field there. Yeah. A dear lady is selling us bags of rice. And, praise God, we've been able to buy 240 bags of rice in the first 2 weeks of April. We're going to be buying a lot more next week. We're able to buy almost 1,000 bags of sacks of water to give out to the community. And tomorrow we're going to buy $1,000 worth of toys to give to the kids because they're going crazy in quarantine.
Yeah.
You know, and so we know that you need food and water, but the kids also need something to do to stay safe, to stay inside. So this is the burden that God has put on our heart, is to equip the people so that they can stay home and stay safe, so they don't have to venture out and try to hustle to make enough for that day. We're trying to give them what they need just to get them through this period, and hopefully it'll be over soon.
The Liberian Association of Canada, we also, when we chatted, in fact, Monday, we're going to be delivering a little bit over 100 bags of rice that have already been secured and purchased everything. We're focusing on communities with disabilities. So there's a group in Liberia in Monrovia called the Group of 77 that house over 100 people that are dealing with all kinds of disability, from physical disability to blindness to you can name the rest. So their only source of income is already through begging in the streets of Monrovia every day. So you add COVID-19 on top of that. So we'll be delivering 100 bags of rice to them and few other communities in the area. We're keeping our fundraising efforts open because more and more people have been calling in. So as the funding is coming in, we will keep the food coming. Our idea came from the war, Joe. During the war, when we all had to stay in, if a certain area was under attack for a number of days, if anybody was to run through the bullets, it was for food. So the first thing we all tried to do was to get rice in the house, because we're saying in Liberia, once you got rice, you can make it happen. With all of this happening, a lot of people are stressed. A lot of people are worried. And a lot of people quickly forget that we take for granted what we have available to us, despite our own challenges in Canada. Can we just talk about the fact that, no, you are not hopeless. If you think your situation is bad, you might just be in a situation to help somebody else who might literally die within weeks if nothing is done. So
yeah, I talk about that all the time. You know, we have, first world problems over here. We complain, we're like, oh, Walmart only had 3 kinds of mushrooms available. Can you believe that? Oh, this is the end here. And we complain about these things. And, when I'm talking to people, I said, guys, count your blessings. We are so privileged. I mean, and I said, I'm telling people in Liberia, where already people are struggling, especially where we're working in the part of Painesville that we're working. It's a very, very poor area. But people are struggling already. And then you add on, a global pandemic on top of it. And so this is the struggle for the people. And you guys know this better than anyone, is they're saying, if we stay home, we have food for 2-3 days before it spoils. So we either stay home and watch our kids eventually starve, or we venture out and maybe get exposed, but at least we can hustle and make enough money to buy 2 or 3 cups of rice, 2 pounds, that'll last us for that day. And so there was that struggle. And so when people say to me, Joe, we're so tight, I can only give $25. I'm like, $25 will buy a 25 kg bag of rice and sustain a family for almost a full month.
Yeah.
I said, your little can do a lot in a country that's in need. The women of the house are weeping, saying, you're in Canada struggling with your own stuff, and you stopped not just to think about us, but you went further. You actually gave us the money that's even so tough where you are, but you're stopping and thinking and giving to us. And I'm telling you, it's being, the hands and the feet of God, because we're showing people that we love them. We're not just telling them that we love them. So it's been a really, really beautiful process for us to see.
Had it not been for my faith, I would have found an excuse to stay home. I have a daughter with severe disability. So sometimes I get scared coming home to her, because when I get home, I have to take care of her too, just as I take care of other people out there. So it's like 100% work out and work in. And so I'm coming home to work with her, and then I have grandkids in the home, and there are so many things to give me excuse not to go out. But as a woman of faith, I also know that someone out there needs my hands. I need to be, somebody's hands out there. So because of my faith and what I've been taught to love people, to take care of people, so I have to go out. Man is in charge of the world. So they decide what they want to do. They decide what they want to pollute themselves with. Let me give you an example. One day in Liberia, my sister and I decided to bake some bread to take out to sell. And because we woke up so early, we were afraid to get out to do the baking. We decided to bake within the house. We never had stove. We had to bake with coal. And then the smoke sat in the house. While we started baking, we did not notice what was happening to us. And we went on baking and baking. And I tell you, in an hour and 30 minutes, we started getting weaker. My sister, I started turning. She went down. She could not say anything. And then all of a sudden, we just remember that we are in the house surrounded by smoke. And because the doors were not open, so the smoke that we have created within the walls of the house was killing us. If we had not noticed to open the windows and the doors, we would have died in there. What am I saying? Today, the world has been polluted from years on and years on, and everything around us. And so this pollution is coming out. I'm afraid, but yet I know I have a God who is faithful to his word, and he's able to keep me, and he knows how to protect us.
Well, as a young lady, my only strength, like Mother Pandora said, comes from above. They had a thing going around that, young people saying, oh, Black people can't catch COVID, and then boom, it started one after the other. We young folks, we overlook stuff. For me, as a young lady, young Liberian, young African, all I can say to my fellow youngsters is don't take this lightly, honestly, because this virus doesn't discriminate. It doesn't know any different. Like, it doesn't see race. It doesn't see your wealth. It doesn't see your potential. It doesn't see your fame. It doesn't see anything. So I see people taking it lightly, like, oh, the people then, they just trying to scare you. You guys can go out. It's not a joke. Honestly, it's not a joke. Fighting the unknown, for me, where I find courage and where I think other young people should find courage is the Bible, God. It's just God. It's just, for me, it's just overwhelming. But it's gotten to a point where it's like, you just give it to God. That's all I always say. We just got to be strong. We got to keep pushing. I just tell everybody, just hang in there, keep the faith, keep fighting. We're all going to get through this eventually with the help of God, and do the best we can, put our best foot forward. It's overwhelming. It's mind blowing. We just can't wrap our head around it.
Well, I feel we mothers have to be strong. Like my son, I told him not to work any shift that he's not entitled to. Like, he should work just the weekend. He's a part-time. But this child is not listening. So yes, so what I cannot do, I'm just in prayer with him. Like, every day when I come from work, enter his room, he's not there. I get my bucket with the bleach, the vinegar, mix it, bleach his bed, all the faucet in the house, the doors that he touched when he entered. Like, I'm kind of scared. It's so scary. For mothers, don't be afraid. This is part of life. So if you have a teenager and that is not listening like mine, I'm not saying he's a bad kid, but sometimes it's good to listen. Especially with all these things going on, nobody know how it came about, and nobody know when it's going to be over. You just have to be extra careful. And how do you be careful? Like, constant washing your hands. Wash your hands constantly. Social distancing is very, very important. We just have to be careful. Social distances, sanitizing your hands. If you want to cough, use a tissue, cough in the tissue, or you use your elbow. Try to drink some hot liquid. It will all help. This is my advice I have to young and older people.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of this conversation. You may have noticed I'm not Liberian, but I have such a heart for Liberia, and just even hearing the Liberian accent tonight has been so good for my soul. And to talk to to respond to what you're saying about, you know, is it disrespectful to God, or is it showing a lack of faith by not going to church, by not having meetings and stuff like that? This is one of the main problems I was having with some of the pastors in Liberia. That, you know, they were saying, you know, God will protect us. You know, Psalm 91 says that, you know, and the Bible says this, and I believe the Bible. I believe the Bible says all that. But so often it'll say, if my people will do this, and if you'll come under the shelter of my wings, if is only 2 letters, but that's got a lot of meaning to such a small word. So God will do his part, but sometimes we have to do our part. So God says, if you will do this, then I will do this. But we only want what God will do. We don't want to do our part sometimes. And so we act inappropriately. And so I'm telling people, you know, yes, God will protect us, but we have to be smart. We have to couple wisdom with faith. It's not one or the other. We don't have to check our brains at the door as believers and just come blindly to trust God. I believe that, you know, the Bible says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of what? Of all wisdom. You know, fear can be a good thing sometimes. You know, we always, oh, fear is from the enemy. You know, I was in South Africa last year, and they took me on a safari, and I saw this female lion tearing apart this animal, and it was like, wow, it was incredible. And part of me said, it would be so cool to go beside that lion and get a picture for Instagram, right? But guess what? Fear said, stay in the car, Joe. Okay? So fear can lead to wisdom. So to all, you know, folks out there who are believers, if you're pastors, if you're leaders, use whatever tools you have at your disposal. We know that the church is more than just the building. It's more than just people gathering together. You know, we're not forsaking God. We're not hurting God's heart by not gathering together. Yes, we miss the fellowship. You know, Jessica was talking about how, you know, we miss friends, we miss hanging out. I mean, I miss my daughter. You know, she's a nurse at a hospital. She's putting her life on the line every day, and I want to hug her. And, you know, we're people who are created for relationship and for community. And so there is that struggle. But if we all do our part and respect the social distancing and if we just kind of draw back from the large public meetings for a while, in the long, we always say short-term pain for long-term gain. And so if we're willing, but we all have to be willing. There's 5 of us here, and all 5 of us have to do it. 4 of us can't do it, and then one goes out and touches everybody and comes back. Like, we all have to do our part, or else it's collective punishment. We all suffer because if you say, I have faith, I'm going to go. There was a pastor recently in the Southern United States who said, I'm an essential service. We're not going to shut our doors. He died last weekend of COVID-19. And I don't say that lightly. That's a big deal. Yeah. But, you know, it's not saying, where was God? God was saying, I told you what to do. Obey your government. They said, do this. The doctors know what they're doing. And so submitting to the authorities that God has given us and listening to the wisdom of the medical health experts, I think that wisdom coupled with faith is what's going to give us results. And so that's what I would say to those people who would be listening tonight.
Thank you so much, everybody. And I want to remind everybody out there, again, these are difficult times, but these are times that behooves all of us to come together as a community. And the reason I'm doing the show, in our community, we have a way of overlooking everything that we do, Pastor Amara, because we've come from a place that almost like nothing else seemed difficult. We've come from a place that everything else you see is almost like, okay, I've been through worse than this. So we take for granted sometimes the well-being of each other. The difficulties we go through, we slog it through. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Someone will be going through something very horrific, and their first attention would be, I will just slog this through. And they don't realize the impact it may have on them mentally or on their children. So I'm trying to do this across the country. So we start to post these videos so people can start to see the importance of us checking on each other. I'm focusing on health workers. I'll be doing it again next week, and frontline workers as well, not just health workers. So just get people, maybe for 1 second or maybe a few minutes, just leave them for those few minutes. Just hear from them, hear the realities. Because if Jessica is your friend, guess what? If you're from the Liberian community and Jessica is your friend and she has to go to work every day and she's telling you, do not take this for granted, this is no joke, it might speak to that person more because Jessica is their friend and they see their own friend saying it. If Catherine is your relative or if I am your friend, so we're trying to put these messages out there as part of our week way as a Liberian community for reminding all of us, like you said, 3 people cannot just do it. All of us have to do our part to make sure that someone like Jessica can come back home safe and alive to her 2 children and her husband. To make sure that people who go out there every day, there's only one thing they ask us for. Let's do our part so that they can come back home alive and healthy to their children, to their husbands, to their wives, to their mothers and fathers. So thank you everybody for being on, and please help us share the video, share the message. Again, I know everybody wants to talk about the dangers and all the hard things that are going on, but we want to take a break and just talk about the hope that we are inspiring into each other, allowing each other to hold on as we go through these difficult times.